Alabama head softball coach Patrick Murphy. Good morning, Coach.
Hey, good morning, Gary.
I tell you what, you play all year to get into this position, and you're certainly accustomed to it, to be able to be a top 8 national seed and not only have an opportunity to host a regional, but if you win that, host the super regional. Here Alabama is again. It starts on Friday. You've got Texas State and Cal in the first game on Friday at the Rhodes House at 1:30, Alabama and Samford at 4 o'clock. I know the team's excited and ready to go.
Oh, we are excited, and this year it adds a little more to it with two former players coming back as coaches. Mandy Burford, obviously the head coach at Samford, and Kelly Kretschmann, an assistant at Texas State. But you're right about the putting in the work. I do the schedule, but I don't do any of the playing, the pitching, the hitting. And when we make the schedule, I always kind of look at it as we have a strong senior class. I'm going to play a little bit stronger schedule. And so we did that this year, but the players, they did all the work to make us the top 8 seed. And, I think it's the 12th year in a row that we're a national seed. And it's unbelievable. It just gets better and better every year. And hopefully we'll have big crowds out at the Rhodes House this weekend.
I don't have any doubt about that, about the crowds. You mentioned Kretschmann, an assistant at Texas State, and Burford, who we had on yesterday, the head coach at Samford. And I know time flies, and it seems like just yesterday you were coming to Tuscaloosa for the first time as an assistant back for your first season before you took over as head coach after a couple of years. But it shows you how long you've been here, how much success you've had, that you would have a regional and 2 of your former players be on coaching staffs. I know your goal is to win it, but that's got to be awfully special.
Oh, yeah, it is. And, Mandy she was an assistant at Samford and then took over after Steph came here. And that's been her goal from day one, is get to NCAA play, win a conference championship. She won the regular season. She won the tournament. And I figured that they'd come here. It's so close. It's all about who can drive.
Right.
And save a little money. And then Kretschmann, she's kind of, I think this is her 3rd year there. And Kat Osserman is the pitching coach, and the lady that's been there for a while is the head coach. I think it's the 7th appearance in a regional for Texas State, but only the 2nd at-large bid, which is big for them. They're in the Sun Belt Conference, and, that's a good conference for softball. It's Louisiana Lafayette and South Alabama, but Texas State kind of took the spot of South Alabama this year. But Kelly's done a great job. She's the outfield coach and the hitting coach, and it's going to be a fun, very competitive regional.
Yeah, it is a good field, and you mentioned Texas State and Samford, and Texas State from a very good conference, and then we know Cal. You played them in the World Series just a few years ago, and they're from the Pac-12, so it's not like Alabama just shows up, rolls out the softball, and wins. You've got to go out there and play well against these teams. You played Samford already this year. The field, though, looks like a really strong field.
Yeah, and, Cal, you're right. We beat them in 2012 when we won the World Series, and they've been probably one of the top 3 programs in the country of all time, with UCLA probably being number 1. But they've been in regionals, I think, 27 of the 28 years that their coach has been there, Diane Ninemeyer. She's a Hall of Famer, and they get so many great athletes from the state of California. And, it's a really good academic school as well. So they get a good mix of great athletes and great students. So, but we had them, I think, in 2007 or 2006 in regionals. And, it's a long ways for them to travel. They're not used to our weather, obviously, because they're in the Bay Area. So, for me, the hotter it is, the more humid it is, the better it is, because they're not used to that weather.
Murph, we in the media, we're always breaking it down, and as I said, you play an entire season to get to this point. But the last that we saw of Sydney Littlejohn, she seemed, from my perspective, and you and Steph know a lot more about it than I do, but it seemed like she was struggling just a little bit in the final regular season game, and then in the SEC tournament. Osorio had a tough outing, but battled hard against Mississippi State. Now you've had some time off. How do you feel about your pitching going into this regional?
I think they'll be okay. It's unfortunate that they had a couple bad games at the end of the year, because both of them were on a roll for quite a while. And when we went over to Texas A&M, they both pitched well in the 2 wins, and then that last Sunday game, everything kind of fell apart. And one of the things that we had done well was we had been limiting our walks to opponents.
Right.
And for whatever reason, they walked a couple people in that game, and then that's kind of hung around with us. So I think the best thing about this is there's no SEC team in this regional. So these 3 teams that are coming, obviously we played Samford earlier, but they don't know us. They don't know our pitching. They don't know what pitches they throw. Obviously they can watch us on film, but it's a little bit different when you get in the box against Osorio's rise or curve and Sydney's curveball, and then you got Maddie Moore, who pitched really well against Auburn.
Sure did.
And so she's kind of like our X factor, and she could pitch a bunch of innings this weekend. So I think everybody is very, very confident with all 3 pitchers right now.
Visiting with Alabama head softball coach Patrick Murphy, the NCAA Tuscaloosa Regional gets underway Friday, May the 20th at the Rhodes House, 1:30. Cal takes on Texas State before Alabama faces Samford at 4 o'clock. It's double elimination. The championship game will be played on Sunday. I'm curious because everybody's goal is to get into regional. Obviously, host is the number one goal. But whether you're the 6th overall national seed and the number 1 seed in this regional, or you're a team that's gotten a large bid, do you push a reset button, so to speak? Do you say, man, what we did in the regular season was great to get us in this position, but now it's a brand new year? Is that the way you approach it, or is it more of just a continuation of what you've done all season?
Well, you can, and some schools do push for the top 8 seed, which we do. Some schools, their goal is just to get to regionals, where their program is at. So if you look at different schools' schedules, some schools schedule to just get into regionals.
Right.
And some schools schedule to host. So there are different kind of timelines of their program. So like an Ole Miss, it's the first time in 20 years that they've actually played in a regional. And I'm really happy for him and that program, but it took him 20 years to get there. And, he knows that SEC is a gauntlet, so he scheduled a little bit lighter out of conference because he knew that the RPI in the conference would help him out. But we do say, this is the start. We call it the 3rd season because the non-conference, the conference, and then the postseason. And you can just wipe the slate clean. And obviously, if there's kids that have had great years, they're going to continue what they've been doing. But if the kid has been struggling, she gets to start from 0. She gets a brand new start. And they don't even know this, but when All-Americans are announced, they only count the regular season. To see even they kind of start the slate clean. So for some kids, it's a good brand new start. For other kids, they're going to continue hopefully what they've been doing, like a Hayward McClenny. But for other kids, like Marissa Runyon and Peyton Grantham, they get a brand new start.
Talking about the SEC, and I often say in football to SEC fans, you can't make the mistake of thinking that the only good football in the country is played in the SEC, because there's good football played everywhere. Similar in softball. The SEC is so strong, but there are other good, you mentioned the Pac-12, there are other good conferences, other good teams around the country. Having said that, to run this gauntlet of the SEC, to win all of your series except for the opening series at LSU, go through an SEC tournament, and then have this field, as you said, coming in here not knowing who you are, it's got to be an advantage to play that type of top-level competition every weekend for teams in the SEC when they get into the postseason.
Absolutely. We probably would have had 12 if Van had a winning record at Mississippi State, because their RPI was top 35 and just fell short of a winning record. But we would have had 12 out of the 13 teams in NCAA play. In Arkansas, they didn't have a winning record either, but we would have had 12 teams, which is unbelievable. The record is 11, which we've had for the last couple of years. And you know every sport in the SEC, but right now I'd put ours against any other sport in terms of
dominance,
top-to-bottom competition.
Yep.
Yeah. And shoot, you might hear some boo birds coming out after this weekend if a lot of our teams do well and advance to super regionals, because you could definitely have an SEC tournament in Oklahoma City. We kind of had it last year with 5 of the 8, but I could see it happening again. And a lot of teams like the Pac-12, they don't have a conference tournament. They just do another, 3-game series with an opponent. And at the beginning of my career, they were like, okay, this is going to help us down the stretch. We're not going to beat each other up that much. Well, now that the FCC's been doing it for 20 years, it really hasn't affected us negatively, like some conferences say. So it is a gauntlet, and you have to, put your big pants on every weekend, and you're going to get beat, and you're going to get tested. But obviously, we'll see. It should pay off this weekend for us.
No disrespect to Chandler Dare, because she's been awesome for you at second base. But I know Demi was in uniform for the SEC tournament. Word is that she could have possibly been used some. What is her status for this regional, and do you anticipate having her in the lineup?
She could, and you're right. Chandler came in and did one heck of a great job. And, Demi helped her every step along the way, and they were great teammates. And Chandler had, hit 380, 390, whatever it was. And but Demi, yesterday in practice, she looked as good as she has since her injury. She's hitting live. She's taking ground balls. I'd say she's 85%, maybe 90%. So, yeah, you could see her. Definitely, you could see her up to bat. I'm still not sure because, when she extends that left arm, and that was her bad elbow, that's what got hurt. It still hurts.
Okay.
And when she reaches up to catch a throw, that could really hurt her. So we're and I'm telling her day after day, be honest with me. Don't sugarcoat it. Just tell me if it hurts, and we'll go from there. But I definitely think you could see her up to bat.
Wow. And finally, I kind of mentioned the reset button earlier for the teams. You set an attendance record over 3,000 fans per game, but it's a reset button for the fans. And I know we anticipate great crowds, but it's important for this regional, for folks watching on TV, for your recruiting. I know that you don't want the team to rest on their laurels, and you certainly don't want the fans to rest on theirs. You need big crowds out there for a number of reasons this weekend.
Yeah, I appreciate them so much, but every now and then, like NCAA play is just a little bit more expensive for tickets. And, that's a concern for me, for a lot of people, because, you just have so many dollars for entertainment. We called a bunch of our Booster Club members yesterday. We call it a thank-a-thon, and team comes up to the offices and just, calls as many people as we can. And almost every one of them, though, the last line of our conversation was always, will we see you this weekend? And I tell you, 99% of them, before we even asked, they would say, oh, we already got our tickets. So they're still softball crazy. We love them, and we need them for 2 more weekends, hopefully. But definitely this weekend. I know there's concerns about weather, but it's a short day on Friday because there's only 2 games. And we're starting at 1:30, so we have a long time, to get them in, and hopefully it'll clear enough that we can play 2 games.
Yeah, and after Friday, we're going to be fine. Saturday and Sunday look really, really good. Look great. So if we can just get through Friday, the weekend looks awesome. Finally, go ahead.
Like you said, though, when these teams come in here, and they've heard about it, they've seen us on TV, but a Texas State and a Cal, our fans are respectful. They know the game. And that's what these opponents love. When Fairfield came last year all the way from Connecticut, it was the greatest softball experience of their lives, those players. And, when people would clap for them if they'd make a good play, even against us. And their coach was, afterwards just talked glowingly of our fans and the atmosphere, because they just don't get that in a lot of places. And so it feels like a Major League softball game. And that's what kind of our fans bring to the table. And I would love that Cal and Texas State, Kelly Kretschmann and Kat Osterman, I hope they get that feel of a packed house. And it should feel like an NCAA tournament. It shouldn't feel like, oh, we're going to go play Alabama at Alabama. It should feel like this is a big-time event. And that's what I'm hoping for.
Finally, and I know you got to go play, and you lose 2 games and you're out. That's the way it works for all 4 teams.
Don't say that, Gary.
Well, I'm just saying, bad day, you do get to play again, but at the same time, you want to be playing your best. But you've been through this so many times. You've won it all. I know I don't want to put you on the spot, but just your gut feeling on this team. How do you feel about this particular team, knowing what it takes to get to Oklahoma City? Do you like this team? Do you feel good about where you're at? Do you feel strongly that this team has the right stuff?
I believe 100% in this team and its leaders because, you've been around long enough. If you have good leaders, you got a great shot. And when you have people like Haley McClarney and Callie Case and Leona and Hawkins, they've been through everything. Mm-hmm. And they're very level-headed young ladies. They don't get too high, they don't get too low. And for me, that's the key in softball and baseball. If you have a rah-rah leader and all they do is rah-rah, and then when they go 0 for 4, they go in the dump, you're not going to win. These 4 are not like that. They look to somebody else to pick them up if they're 0 for 4. They're not concerned about their performance. They're worried about everybody else. And when that happens, I feel good about a team.
It's going to be fun. It starts on Friday. If Alabama can win the regional, they're in line to host the Seattle regional winner next weekend in the Super Regional. Thank you for the time, Coach. I know you're busy.
Hey, thanks for everything, Gary.